everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now, before this episode kicks off, I'm giving you guys a bit of a heads up here. Due to circumstances out of our control, this episode was previously filmed at AmFest, and unfortunately, they moved Media Row inside the exhibitor hall under a really loud speaker. So that caused us a bit of a challenge with the audio, but please hang in there with us. Give it a listen because this episode is filled with an amazing guest with a lot of interesting things to say. And if you wouldn't mind giving it a like, giving it a comment, and giving it a share, that would just really help us continue to bring even more interesting people on and help them share their messages. Thank you so much.
What a treat. I'm here with one of my favorite people in the entire world, Xaviaer DuRousseau. He is a Prager U personality. You probably already follow him on all the platforms, all the places. Thanks for taking time to join my show today.
Thanks for having me. I love the fight you guys are fighting.
Well, you're welcome anytime. You give me like just the best belly laughs. Do you wake up and think like, how can I make people laugh? Is this just really just come out of your body, like the things that you say?
It's so ironic because I don't think I'm funny. It's like people are laughing, but I'm dead serious. I'll just be venting and speaking my mind, and then people are all just like hysterically laughing like I'm a comedian. It's like, I was talking about the border.
You're like, this is a really serious issue right now. Good grief.
Like, I'll never forget the first time I called Hamas musty terrorists, and it was all over the internet that I called them musty. I'm like, do they not look unbathed? I was dead serious.
I can't remember the one. There was one that you did, and I'm going to find it for you and send it because I sent it to all of my friends. I was like, he just said this, and this is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, y'all have to follow this guy. So, man, like, how long have you been doing content creation, first off?
Well, so I started making content as a conservative in February of 2021.
Wow, so you've had this much growth and success in 3 years.
Yeah, this year was huge. I'm very grateful for all the support that I've been able to accumulate this year, but I still feel like there's so much work to be done. It's like I can't even pay attention to the numbers because there's so many fights that are so much more important than looking at the following.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so you say you got into it in 2021. Give us a quick, brief background on, because I'm assuming that you didn't think that you were going to be a conservative content creator about 5 years ago.
Oh my gosh, I still can't believe it sometimes. It's so crazy. So basically my family is very left-wing, borderline radical left, and growing up I was always a liberal, very liberal. I was a BLM activist for years, and then in 2020 I was bored and applied to be on a reality show where I was essentially supposed to teach people how to become BLM activists. And getting ready for the show, I decided I was going to study the counter argument so that I would be good at debating. And I was going to make a whole series debunking Prager U videos. And in the process, I ended up debunking myself on accident and red-pilled myself, so much so that I backed out of the show 3 days before I was supposed to fly out and film it. That was in October of 2020. And
What was your excuse? You called the producers and you're like, yeah, I don't believe this anymore.
Literally, and I was like, I'm still down to go on the show. It's just I don't want that to be my character arc anymore. But you know how reality TV works. It was pretty much already ingrained in the show. So I was like, you know what? I would rather just fall back and figure out who I really am at this point. Because learning conservative ideas and the fact that they made sense, it made me reevaluate my entire perspective of the world.
What was it? Was there one exact argument that you're like, oh, this got me? Like, I can't deny this.
Well, people always want a red pill moment, but for me, it was like a prescription pill bottle of red pill, because it was a very long casting process because of COVID, kept delaying things. So it was like every week I got debunked about something new. But the moment, if I had to pick one, the moment where I was just like, I cannot do this anymore, is I finally had the audacity to trace BLM's money. And I saw how much money was being made that was going directly to groups like Act Blue and to progressive politicians, and not to a single black community, black business, anything. And when I was helping organize for BLM, I would always ask, where's the money? Why am I paying for cardboard? Like, why are we doing this when we're raising all this money? And I would be told, stay in your lane, stay in line, you're asking the wrong question, you sound like a Republican, all these different things. And I was just like, this is a fraud. I always say, you know people's real values based on their money habits.
Wow, that's crazy. All right, so now here you are. You've got this content creation. You got this like booming platform. You're about to have a show that comes out with Prager U and a really awesome documentary. Let's talk about your documentary.
Yes, so thank you so much. Their Lives Mattered, the Forgotten Victims of Crime in America. It's exploring the fact that there are so many kids that are being killed in cities like Chicago, Baltimore, Los Angeles, etc., and nobody's talking about it. They're being killed from gang violence and just random thugs who are repeat offenders being allowed back on the streets. But people are so much more focused on things like Black Lives Matter and things that fit a certain narrative rather than focusing on the issue that is actually happening more often than many people realize,
right,
which is kids being murdered.
Right.
So in the documentary, for example, we sit down with a mother named Happy Gregg. Her 4-year-old son was getting his hair cut, and there was a drive-by shooting, and her son was murdered while getting his hair cut.
This is in Chicago?
In Chicago.
Yeah.
And something that she said that sticks with me is she said, when my son was murdered, I thought that there would be outrage. And then there is basically nothing.
No, because Chicago is real. It poses a really big problem for the left when it comes to the gun narrative. It poses a really big, like, they ignore Chicago for so many reasons, but just on the basis of the gun argument alone, it's, well, the bad guys have the guns, and you're in a very difficult place to get a gun in Chicago. So all these laws that they always try to push for don't apply to Chicago, and yet there's still gang violence that is happening. And they're always using handgun, they're not using AR-15, so like therefore the handgun doesn't fit there. Like it's so sticky. Yeah. It causes such a problem for the Democrats, which is like absolutely no doubt why they ignore what is happening in Chicago, and it's a travesty because it's so sad.
Well, it's so much easier and more profitable to pretend like you're fighting an issue than to actually fight the issue. So we sat down with some experts on crime and policy, and they were explaining to us how these DAs are basically making it a safe haven for criminals. If someone has committed a violent crime 3 times, you really don't think they're going to do a 4th? Are you really that naive and unintelligent? But they are.
Yep.
Or they pretend to be, at least. And they're eliminating cash bail in a bunch of different states now, where all it takes is your homegirl to come pick you up from prison after you literally just shot somebody. The people who murdered Happy Gregg's child, Mikel Moultrie Jr., they're as free as a bird. And they have it on video. They have witnesses. One of the people who shot her son tried to kill somebody else, the county over, and still he is as free as a bird. Crazy. The DAs do nothing. They do absolutely nothing.
Is this, is this all concentrated to Chicago, or are you guys highlighting this in other cities as well?
It's really all over the country. I could go and have the same conversations all over the nation, honestly. We just happen to be in Chicago, especially because Chicago holds a special place in my heart, being from there originally. So we interviewed some families where that was happening. But no, this is happening all the time. In fact, the inspiration for it was actually 2 kids in Philadelphia within like a week or 2 of each other were teenagers shot and killed at a bus stop. And when I saw that, I was like, is no one talking about this? Like, how often is this happening? And then led to this whole deep dive that I was doing.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, we have a documentary on it. So
what do you hope comes out of this? Like, what kind of impact do you hope this makes on everybody?
I hope people now have the awareness of what's going on. They're having serious conversations about what's going on. They're not having selective outrage about things that are just focused on racial narratives, because it's so much more beyond just race.
Yeah.
But I would say one of the biggest things, the most actionable things, is who is your DA? So many people don't even know who their district attorney is. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the things that people blame on the president, even though you can blame a lot on Joe Biden, a lot of that actually falls on your local district attorney. Yeah. And some people who are most affected by the crime in their communities, they don't know the name of their DA. You need to get out and you need to vote and be active when it comes to these local, smaller elections.
Pay attention to the state and local elections, which nobody in Dallas alone, 7% of the people of the population in Dallas votes in local elections. 7%. I don't even know what it is in Chicago, but yeah, probably not much better.
People in Los Angeles are finally paying attention. We just got rid of Gascon, who is notoriously and arguably the worst district attorney that our nation has ever seen. So we just got rid of him, and now we have Nathan Hoffman in, who at this point it's like anything is an elevation, and I really hope that he's going to do a great job, and I'm hoping I have a chance to work with him in some capacity, or at least to document the work he's doing.
Awesome. So tell us about the show that you're going to be launching with Prager U.
Yes, this is the inside scoop. I haven't made a formal announcement yet, but it's called Respectfully Xavier, where it's going to be a live show. We're going to be talking about everything from pop culture, politics, news, viral trends, everything. I'm going to be doing some interviews, having some great high-profile guests on there, and talking about LA culture and just everything that's going on in our country.
Oh my gosh, I can't think of anybody else I would rather sit and listen to that than you. This is going to be so exciting. When does that launch?
It should be January 23rd.
January 23rd. And where can everybody catch that?
That'll be on PragerU.com and as well as my YouTube channel at Xavier. Pretty much all my social media handles are just my first name, Xaviaer.
I'm glad that you spelled that out. We will have that in the show notes below, but did want to give a shout out to you. Let everybody know where they can find this. Where can they watch the documentary?
So that's also on PragerU.com.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for taking time to come over here. This is not the last time you guys are going to see Xavier. You're one of my favorites, so come on anytime.
Thank you for having me.